Good evening and welcome. We gather here as a community in varying locales, homes and a myriad of locations, and here from the synagogue in Mobile. And here in Mobile, the skies are nearly blue and white, and you might say almost reminiscent of the flag of Israel. But there's a gray darkness near the horizon. And it strikes me that even the skies are darkening this afternoon and this evening as we begin to join with Jewish communities and other communities of hope and of love and of heart all across the globe, marking one of the darkest experiences in all of human history and improbability and incomprehensibility. And I'm thinking of a sentence from the Torah, which I'm going to now paraphrase. When it was that God began to build the creation, God created heaven and earth, but beforehand there was chaos and there was colossal darkness. And God said, Yehi or, let there be light. Light was the first necessary ingredient to dispel chaos and darkness. Light, not only to set forth the beginnings of what you and I call as day, but also as an energy, whereby for untold, beyond counting eons, people yet to be, would gain a sense of hope and promise and uplift. And just 2 generations ago, in the lifetimes of many of us and our immediate ancestors, absolute darkness took hold of humanity, Europe, and conscience was obliterated, and morality was nearly eliminated. And that is why we gather on this day known as Yom Hashoah, the day of Shoah, which means, modified from a term in Isaiah's book, complete desolation. And it is with profound gratitude that I turn to some of our forebears, especially Mary and Paul Philbin of blessed memory, for they were instruments of compassion and kindness, humanity and dignity. And they initiated the Christian-Jewish dialogue, and it was under their initiative that Mobile came to have a shared Yom Hashoah commemoration. And we're the beneficiaries of their legacy of love, of brotherhood, of open hearts and open hands. And with gratitude, I now turn to a good friend and a very caring and dear man and educator, Dr. Don Barry, representing the Christian-Jewish dialogue.
As Paul and Mary envisioned it, Holocaust remembrance involved both the synagogue and the church. We're gathered to remember the victims. We can also take a long, hard look at the society which serves as the context for this remembrance. The Holocaust is the legacy of the Western world. The indifference to human life that it illustrates remains with us. And whether speaking as an American or a Christian, we could have done more to end the Holocaust. We could have done more to alleviate the suffering of its victims. So tonight we honor the dead, not only by looking back, but also by looking forward. God give us the strength to oppose and bring an end to the anti-Semitism, racial injustice, and inhumane violence that remains ever with us. Tonight we welcome Dr. Dan Puckett, Chair of the Alabama Holocaust Commission. I'll mention that there are 3 Mobilians currently serving on the commission, Dr. David Miola of University of South Alabama, and Dr. Alex Rubel of Spring Hill College, and myself. Dr. Puckett has taught history at Troy University since 2005. He is author of In the Shadow of Hitler, Alabama Jews, the Second World War, and the Holocaust. On behalf of the Gulf Coast Center for Holocaust and Human Rights Education, on behalf of local educators, and on behalf of local congregation, thanks to Professor Puckett for his continued service on the commission. The commission strives to ensure that Holocaust remembrance and education is statewide in scope. Dr. Puckett has visited Mobile on several occasions to support our programming and to speak on the history of the Holocaust. And Dan, we look forward to future visits as soon as circumstances allow. Dr. Dan Puckett.
Thank you, Don. I'd like to say good evening to everyone, and thank you so much, Rabbi Silverman, Don with the Gulf Coast Center, the Christian Jewish Dialogue, and for all of that you do. I am very happy to be here to bring greetings from the state of Alabama and the Alabama Holocaust Commission. It is the commission's mandate to foster Holocaust education throughout the state, and that would not be possible without organizations like the Gulf Coast Center that does just a fantastic job of educating educators. And as long as I think as long as we have the ear of the legislature, then and as long as they continue to fund us, which at the time we I think we're doing we're getting enough to continue this mission, then the Gulf Coast Center is certainly going to be a big part of what our mission is at the commission. So Don, thank you for everything you do, and David, thank you, and Alex Rubel, who is a new member of the commission. Look forward to working with you on the commission. But to everyone in Mobile, thank you so much for having me. That this is so important for us to remember the victims, especially as anti-Semitism continues to increase throughout the nation and in the state, from Huntsville all the way down to Mobile. It's events like this to remember the victims of the Holocaust, and also to honor the survivors who are still with us, thankfully. That, you know, I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Dan. Perhaps the central act of our annual commemoration is the lighting of memorial candles. We light candles in tribute to those who lost their lives in the Shoah. The flame and its light demonstrate that those who perished in the Holocaust remain in our memories. As the candles burn, I invite you to reflect on the meaning and value of life itself, and to remember loved ones and acquaintances who were murdered in the Shoah. Just a little direction to our candle lighters. There are 7 of you. If you will state your name, read the reading that you've been given, light the candle, and then leave the candle on screen until the conclusion of the service. Thank you very much. Glenn?
These candles that we're about to light share their light as testimony. I'm Glenn Muchnick, and the first candle is for the rabbis and the teachers, the canners and the yeshivas, the Hebraist and the Yiddishist, the voices of learning and the voices of song which were silenced by the wicked cruelty of the aggressors.
Okay. These candles share their light and testimony. I'm Alex Rubel, and I'm reading the following statement. For the artists and musicians, the playwrights and the scientists, the engineers and educators, the newspaper editors and journalists, the writers, philosophers, and thinkers, whose designs and creativity were obliterated by the wickedness of the abusers.
I am Patricia Silverman. For the farmers who brought food from the earth, and the tradesmen who crafted and sustained daily life, all destroyed, and therefore the life of others were eviscerated.
I'm Ricky Boyd. For the families who were decimated, the children who were butchered, the mothers whose nurslings were ripped from their breasts, and the fathers who were abused beyond all conscience, and the women and girls humiliated, and the men and boys destroyed.
I'm Dan Puckett. For the villages which no longer exist, leaving cemeteries behind, and for the cemeteries themselves which were violated, and now no longer even dignity do the dead remains.
I am David Miola. For the Jews whose lives had been as much part of the soil of Europe as the roots of the trees and the rocks removed by their hands to make the soil tillable.
I'm Sister Ann Brady. This candle is for the Christians who live their faith to the extreme, sanctifying the world by dedicating their lives to serving pariahs. For the gypsies, the homosexuals, the special needs adults and children. For all who did not conform to the expectations of the bigots and racists. For all destroyed by those monsters who did not see the beauty within life itself.
Donna Lamberti teaches 8th grade history at UMS Wright Preparatory School. She's been allied with the center for 2 years. She is a learner fellow, which means she has attended the Jewish Foundation for the Righteous Summer Seminar, one of the premier Holocaust education programs in the country. We have asked Donna to share a few remarks on the content of her Holocaust unit and why teaching the Holocaust is a priority for her.
For the last several years, I've spent quite a bit of time teaching young people, high school students, about the Holocaust. There are many reasons we could cite for why this is important and necessary work, and I share these reasons with my students early in our study of the Holocaust. When young people study the Holocaust, it helps illustrate that genocide is a process, which can be challenged or perhaps stopped rather than a spontaneous or inevitable event. Examination of the history of the Holocaust can also illustrate how various factors play into the erosion and disintegration of democratic values and human rights. For young people, teaching and learning about the Holocaust is an opportunity to analyze the decisions and actions taken or not taken by a range of people in an emerging time of crisis. This should be a reminder to them that decisions have consequences, regardless of the complexity of the situations in which they are taken. And studying anti-Semitism in context sheds light on the various manifestations and ramifications of prejudice, stereotyping, xenophobia, and racism of all kinds. These are all good and honorable reasons for educating young people about the Holocaust, but there is another reason as well that I tell my students about, one that I keep coming back to time and time again, and one that is at the heart of what we are doing here today. That reason has to do with the power of remembering. I tell my students that remembering is in some ways a simple act, but even in its simplicity, it is also a deeply powerful act. To remember is to keep something in mind, to be mindful. I tell my students that when we remember the Holocaust and all those who suffered during and after it, we form a kind of human chain, with one generation linked to another, past, present, and future. We keep the stories of those who lived alive for ourselves and for those yet to come. And we do this without always knowing what the end results of that remembering may fully be for ourselves or others, but we must trust that the act of remembering in and of itself is enough. Although remembering and commemoration cannot replace learning, they are essential and complementary components to the endeavor of teaching young people about the Holocaust.
People are familiar with the Kaddish, and in just a few minutes near the conclusion of the service, we will have the Kaddish offered in English and Hebrew by the presidents of the two Jewish congregations here in Mobile. To my mind, as powerful as the Kaddish is, there is an element that comes forth from the Mole Rachamim, which is an age-old prayer, because it's constructed specifically to highlight one person by name, which is what you have here before you on your screen. And anytime a loved one is remembered, and we mention that person's name, male or female, we are placing that person's name, that person's identity, in some way our attempt to comprehend the beauty of what a life is in the hands and in the heart of God. So I'm going to modify the mole right now in terms of the chanted Hebrew in just a moment to attempt to address the enormity of all of our loss. And we will have an opportunity to read the adjusted English in just a moment near the bottom of the page. Il mole rachamim shochen bamromim umtzei mincha nechana tochot kanfei hashchina b'malot kedoshim utorim Kizohar Harikim Mazirim Et Kol Nishmot Shel Elu Shenhergu Nisrafu Nuchnaku Nirtzachu Nirovu Nitzma'u Ayidei Kiddush Hashem Shalach L'Olamam Began Eden Ze Menuchatom O Nobal Rachamim Hasti Rehem Beseter Knefech L'Olamim Utzror B'tzrochaim Nishmetehem Harnahu Nachlatom V'yanuchu V'shalom Mishkavotehem V'namar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, who shine with the splendor of the firmament to the souls of all of our dear beloved ones those whose names are known and those whose names will never be known, those who were butchered, those who were starved, those who died by thirst, those who were imprisoned, those who had every element of life and soul ripped from them on the hands of people who cannot be called human. Master of mercy, remember all of their worthy deeds in the land of the living. Inscribe their eternal memories within your own heart. Testify to the devotion that they expressed by their refusal to relinquish their sense of Jewish identity. May all their memories always inspire us to attain dignity and holiness in life. May they all rest in peace. And we all say, Amen.
Amen.
And now in a moment, we shall have the Kaddish offered first by Mr. Gilbert Layden, the president of the Springhill Avenue Temple, and then in Hebrew by Dr. Neil Sass, president of the Congregation of Ahavas Chesed. Those who are so inclined are invited to rise at this time.
Exalted and hallowed be God's great name. Throughout the world which God has created, may God establish his sovereignty, bringing forth redemption and hastening the coming of the Messiah. May his great name be blessed forever and to all eternity. Blessed and praised, glorified, exalted, and extolled. Honored be the name of the Holy One. Blessed be he. We speak forth words beyond all the blessings, hymns, praises, and consolation that are uttered in the world. May there be abundant peace from heaven and a good life for us and for all Israel and everyone. May God, who makes peace in his heavens, make peace for us and for all Israel and the world. And we all say, Amen.
In recognition of those we have lost, those who are no longer with us, may each name be for blessed memory. Yishkadal v'yishkadash shemei rabah.
Amen.
Ya'olamah divrah kirusei v'yamlech malchusei. B'chayikon v'yomechon v'chayed akal beis Yisrael. Ba'golal v'zman karib v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabah v'olach. Ve'olam v'olmei omaya. Yisbarach v'yishtabach v'yishbar v'yishramah v'yishmaseh. Yishadar v'yishaleh v'yishallah v'yishakudashah v'yachud. Le'lo min kol b'chasa v'shavasa tushbachasa v'nechamasa ta'miram v'yomah. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba mishmai v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromah. Uyaseh shalom. Yakol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen.
I wish to offer just a sentence before we turn to Dr. Berry for a conclusion. Again, Yishar Koach to all those who participated this evening. In Jewish tradition, when people participate in whether it's a prayer service or a commendable act, we don't say good job. Those who say good job, unfortunately, have lost a little bit of the familiarity of the traditional Jewish greeting. It's a function of not knowing that we have a special greeting. We don't say good job, we say Yishar Koach. May you continue to be blessed with strength to bring uprightness into the world. May you continue to be blessed with strength to bring uprightness into the world. And that's what all of you have done, all joining in at this time. You're bringing uprightness into the world, and the world is desperately in need of your uprightness. And I do want to say one personal element that struck me deeply. Of course, you're familiar with traditionally the preference of gathering together in one locale, the temple or the shul. But I hope you noticed and were moved by seeing candlelight in homes and offices in many different locations across this community. And as much as we long to be in one place, think of the power by all those who brought light into our world this evening in their own local places. In a way, this might be, one small way, just a little bit better than having lights only in the temple or the synagogue.
Right.
Now with gratitude, Dr. Donberry.
And I will echo to all of you, thank you for being a part in the 2021 Gulf Coast Shoah commemoration. Thank you for those who joined us online, and a special thanks to those who actually took part in the service in some way or other. We come to the end of this brief service of memory, but our reflection on the suffering of the victims of the Holocaust and our acknowledgement of the loss we continue to experience is far from over. This is a day to mark our remembrance and to remind ourselves of the need for continuous celebration of the value of life. May their memory be our blessing. Shalom to all. May the peace of God be with you.